folks, I'd like to do a little video today on this Jet City amplifier. It's the JCA50 and these were designed by Soldano. The reason I wanted this was I love the sound of Soldano amps. My big influences growing up were that sort of early 90s Van Halen, and Gary Moore was a huge influence as well. More his rock stuff than his blues, but Gary Moore was a huge influence. And I knew as a teenager many moons ago that they played on occasions Soldano amps. Soldano were advertised in all the magazines, and I couldn't afford one then, and I could not justify the cost of one now, but did a bit of research and found that this was essentially the Hotrod 50 Plus that Soldano make, but this is made in China. Some cheaper components. If you want to know more, have a listen to Mike Soldano on Tone Talk. I think it was episode 19. It's a fantastic show. It's Mark Kozansky and David Friedman. So this is a 2-channel amp, 50 watt, 6L6 power amp tubes, and 5 12AX7s, I think is the preamp. And I've got this set with, you've got crunch channel, overdrive channel, and you'll see why it's not classed as a clean channel later on. Bass, middle, treble, all set to noon. The master volumes for the crunch is at 1.5, the overdrive channel set at roughly the same, present straight up. I'm running this into a Laney IRT 4x12 cabinet, 16 ohm. I've got a few cabinets. I've got quite a few Harley Bentons, some with own brand speakers, some with the vintage 30s. But the Laney seemed to be the one that complemented this amp the best when I've tried all of them. And today I will be using one cable, no effects, no boosts, and the guitar is a Kramer Pacer with Seymour Duncan JB in the bridge. So it's about as 80s as it can get, really. And we'll have a quick go at this. We'll start with the crunch channel, which isn't the cleanest of channels, which is, as Mike Soldano said, he designed this as a rock amplifier, so rock amplifier it is. So we'll start off with the crunch at 1. Which is quite dry. It's not the liveliest of channels at that point, but by the time you get to about, we'll put it to 3 and see what you think of this. As you can hear, it's got breakup already. It's almost a Marshall Plexi, but a kind of fat Marshall Plexi sound. And pop this up to halfway and see what you think of this one. Quite driving, really nice vintage rock sound you have here, and whack it up to 3/4, so it's 7. These only go up to 9, Soldanos go to 11, so I feel a little bit cheated, but it's a bit of a Spinal Tap thing. Okay, it's 7, 3/4 of the way up on the crunch, not touched anything else. You're beginning to get into quite a high gain territory already. No boosts on this. If you hit this tone with a tube screamer or a Boss SD1 or even a clon type pedal, it really will go into high gain territory even on the crunch channel. So here's 3/4 of the way up. There to let you hear it on crunch channel on full. Okay, so that's the crunch channel. Probably one that you wouldn't use a huge amount, but it's there. It's very, very usable. I really do like the sound of this. Now the overdrive channel takes off where the crunch channel finishes. So if I just pop it with the little foot switch, okay, and we will put the overdrive channel to 1. So as you hear, it's very similar. I'll just put the crunch up to full and you can compare. So overdrive channel at 1. Crunch channel on full. Okay, now we shall bump this up to 3. Now if you were running a boost tube screamer into this, 3's probably around the sweet spot, 3 to 4, where you would have this set before you hit it with a tube screamer, Boss SD1, whatever. It's got quite a lot of gain already at 3. But at 3 it's great. Putting it up to, I'll go past halfway, I'll put it to 6. This is where it really begins to wake up for me. And this is with the master turned really low. If you're gigging it and you've got this up at 3 or 4 or above, it's going to sound even better. But we have this at the moment at quite a loud room temperature, room volume, and overdrive at 6, and this is where you're into 80s hair metal territory. And we will go even higher, 3/4 of the way up. And this is where you really are getting quite saturated now. It really doesn't increase much more in the way of gain from 6 up till 9. It just gets a little bit more dense, but it doesn't get saggy. It stays incredibly tight. So I'll let you hear this. Still not a huge amount of noise. I've no noise gates in this, I've no boosts, I've no effects, I've no delays. We'll get to the subject on delays in a second. So all the way up full, again, it's still not ridiculously noisy. And when you're in this room, you really wouldn't be talking over this at all. You'd be beginning to use a few bits of sign language. Just back this off a touch, back to about 6 where I'm in my happy place. The bass isn't the most powerful of EQs, but again, putting that up to about 6 just gives it a little bit more thump. It's not the bassiest of amplifiers, and this is why I found when I plugged it into the cabinet with vintage 30s, it was just a little bit brittle, a little bit bright. So roll off a little bit of mid-range, keep the treble where it is, keep the presence where it is, and you will hear where I'm in a kind of happy place. Now I'll just play G, my guitar's tuned down a step, so I'll just play an open G, which would be an A in most guitars, but here we go, and I'll just quickly sweep through the bass, middle and treble. So bass right off. kind of sweep through all the settings. Really, it's very difficult, unless you're going to the extremes of the treble and the presence, it's very difficult to get a bad sound out of this. And even just where that is, maybe just bump the bass up a bit, ease that to there and there. When I played this to start with, it just seemed to jump out that 1990s For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge Van Halen tone, and that's without adding any kind of detuning or effects. But I'll play a little bit of, I think it's the last song in the album, so I'll see if this works. Excuse my Van Halen impression, but you should get that sound. So it just has all these lovely harmonics and overtones that just absolutely sing through lovely. Okay, so that's basically the sounds of this. I did mention things like delays. Now this is what I've found to be a little bit of a problem so far, but just based on the gear I've got. Now, the effects loop in this is incredibly hot, and according to what Mike Soldano said, it was designed for line level. And it comes in between the preamp and the tone stack, so it's in a little bit of an unusual place. I tried putting in my Digitech stuff and my Line 6 stuff and run a 4-cable method, and so far it just does not work. The signal going in is very hot, the signal coming out is very weak, and it just doesn't sound good at all. I'm going to try and pick up a rack mount delay unit of somebody that I know and try that, because it's got the plus 4 dB line level, which a few people have said works well. I'm not going to buy one until I've tried it to make sure. But to be honest, I'm quite happy. I could take this out and gig it as it is, without delays, without reverb. Shove a boost in the front if I want it, and shove a wah-wah in the front, and I'll be quite happy to play any amount of 80s hair metal all day long with this. Now, they're quite hard to find, certainly here in France, and I would say if you can find one, try and get it, because essentially it is a Soldano Hotrod 50 plus. The Hotrod 50 was single channel, I think. The plus was the 2-channel. And these are no longer made. So €200 for a 50 watt all tube amplifier, or 200 plus euros for a pedal. Okay, there's pros and cons in both. Having a pedal obviously is a damn sight lighter and easier to carry, and you don't need to have another amplifier clogging up your house. But to be fair, this isn't all that heavy. It's certainly not the weight of the Bugera 333XL that's sitting below it, albeit this is a 50 watt, not 120, but 50 watt, this is way more loud than I'll ever need to gig with. It's phenomenally loud, and it has that real cut, so even if it's set fairly low in a band mix, you're still going to be heard, because it's not bass heavy, it's voiced for cutting through and really sings. Effects loop aside, that's the only thing I would be wary of. You're not going to just run and chuck any old stomp box delay pedal into it. It just won't play nice. I have heard that some of the TC Electronic and MXR stuff will work with it, but again, I don't have any of those around me at the moment. So that's about it. Trying to keep it short and sweet, but I'm still running over 20 minutes of waffling to you in a single take. But I hope this is of some interest to you. I absolutely love this thing. I can come in and I play this hours at a time, and just glorious. Takes me right back to 1988, 89, 90. But yeah, €200 on a little road trip down to the beach in the west coast of France. Yeah, good day, well worth it. So if you see one, look for Jet City 50s or JCA 50s or Jet City amplification, and you never know what Marketplace or Reverb or eBay will throw up. And happy playing. Absolutely love this. Thank you very much, and I hope this is of some use to somebody, and I'll hopefully have something for you again quite soon. Thank you very much. Bye bye.